specific market.
Yeah, I remember conversations about it, especially when Campground first popped up.
Right. Did you check into that? And was it Tiffany or Nancy or whoever? Everybody thought that it was a really good idea, you know, that there was an opportunity for growth out there on that. But all I remember is us talking about it in the past and certainly including it in our website and collateral materials and all of that, but not necessarily looking at it as a niche market.
Okay, I'll see. So really just where we are with looking at accessibility as a niche market.
Right.
Okay.
Especially with
accessibility with families, with children.
Right. A lot of our stuff is oriented toward children. So,
yeah. Okay.
And we had tentatively penciled Nancy in for the March 3rd RIC meeting.
Okay.
Where we could talk about the accessible tourism. And there was something else that we wanted her to talk about as well, but no one can remember it. So I'll have to get back with you on that.
Okay. No worries.
I'll sit up and go, oh, that's what it was.
That's what happened to me at 2 o'clock in the morning. I went, oh, that's a really great idea. Why is it 2 o'clock in the morning? What is happening?
Hey, Mr. Eason. All right.
Can you hear me?
I can. You were
sorry.
You were lip syncing for a little while.
Yeah, I was slow on the mute button. Sorry. Am I the only guy here?
So far, you're out.
All right.
You better behave.
Well, I don't know about that. It may not be possible.
Yeah, I hear you. Kathy, I am going to bring up Preston after the call to order today. So before we go into the minutes. So you know that's coming.
And you also might just want to remind people to keep their mute buttons on if they will.
Okay. I don't have to do all of that statement again though, do I? Okay.
No. You know, and we'll keep our eyes open for virtual hands and people who want to speak.
Okay, so I'll remind about the mute button, virtual hand, and if there is any public that has questions, they can answer them under new business.
Correct.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Hey, George.
Hey there. I'm still digging the air out of my back.
Are we going to see your picture today or just that ugly black and white phone?
Yeah, you're going to see the ugly black and white phone.
You know, we want to see your face.
Nothing to it, man.
Wait a minute. Can we take a vote on that?
Exactly. What we're talking, see, that's a matter of opinion.
Okay, well, I will rephrase that. I would like to see your face. How's that?
I'm not going to do it.
Oh, George.
You'll just have to deal with it.
You know, I can understand those 7:30 in the morning meetings, but you know, it's 3. You've had time to shower today.
You don't even want me to answer that question. You want me to comment on that.
Come on now, let me give you a hard time.
Oh, man. So I see that the grant form is ready to go. What are we supposed to do with that thing?
Well, they haven't opened the portal where it can be submitted, right, Kathy?
That's correct.
Right.
I'm going to give an update on that. George, as I spoke with you yesterday, as soon as it goes live, you are going to be one of the first people that I contact. They were testing it yesterday, and I don't know if run into an error, but economic development and IT were testing it yesterday, so it should be any time now.
Do you want me to send it to AAA board to look at?
That's
I didn't hear you.
fine.
Okay.
Just
I'll
as
do
an FYI to them, but we are not doing anything until it's live.
Yeah, I'll just let them know it's just for their review.
BJ, we have our quorum now.
Okay. I thought we'd wait until the city manager got on.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, I mean, just for any
Right.
other approval. We're good.
Okay. Thank you. We do have a couple of names that I don't recognize, and pardon me for not recognizing your name. Carol Thompson, are you public or city staff or city staff? Okay, welcome. Thank you very much. And M.E. Shea,
That's Mark Shea from SGA.
got it.
Yes, comprehensive transportation.
Welcome again. Pardon me for not automatically recognizing that.
No problem.
Guy, I like your new background. I'm feeling very warm and tropical.
Yeah, I'm down here in the southern hemisphere, mentally, emotionally.
We just need to get the new hat.
I like the hat.
Yeah.
How you say?
Missing a T.
Yeah, always has.
I'm with Billy on that one.
My son who went to Tech, kids baffled why, since Tech beat Virginia so handily the other night, we're still ranked ahead of them in the rankings. It took me a while to explain that. I said, you know, Virginia beat Tech in football one time. You think that means we should be ranked ahead of it? If we played 10 times, how many times do you think you'd win?
Anytime we think we could, we always say things like ODU, Liberty, JMU.
Okay, well, I see that our illustrious city manager has popped on now, so we can get the meeting started. Robin, I believe that Robin and Kathy are both going to co-host today. Just a couple of reminders, if everyone will keep their mute buttons on so that we don't have any background noise. We also, if there are any public that are out there that have comments or questions, if you can hold those until the new business section, that would be great. And if you raise your virtual hand, Robin and Kathy are going to help me keep track of those. Or if you're like me and you can't find your hand, just literally like wave your hand and hopefully somebody will see you there. So. Okay, I'll call the Resort Advisory Commission meeting to order. The general purpose of the Resort Advisory Commission shall be to review and make recommendations to City Council regarding projects and issues associated with the oceanfront resort area and such other resort and/or tourism-related projects and issues as the Council may refer to the Commission. The Commission's goal shall be to support the City Council's efforts to realize its vision of Virginia Beach as a quality resort destination. I'd like to take a few minutes or a couple of minutes before we approve the minutes and get into the body of meeting to just say a few words about Preston. And I think that most of you are aware of what's gone on, but it saddens me greatly to tell you that my friend and fellow RAC commissioner, Preston Midget, has passed. Preston was the consummate citizen of the beach. His family has been part of Virginia Beach for many generations. Preston grew up here, cutting his teeth at Jungle Golf. When I read his obituary, I realized that I could sit here for an hour listing the organizations, the committees, the community projects that Preston, but I'm not going to do that. I will say that he relentlessly strived to make our city a better place through his involvement with all organizations, and RAC would certainly not be the success that it is today if not for Preston. There was not a committee, an initiative, or project that RAC undertook that Preston didn't have his hand in. He worked tirelessly on everyone, with everyone, to make sure that it succeeded. He was a quiet giant with a quick and easy smile. He loved staying in the background, but was always moving whatever he was working on forward. He knew more about the resort area and the people that lived and worked here than anyone that I've ever known. On a personal note, way back when I started first at RAC, Preston and Billy corralled me into agreeing to become the chair of RAC. And I made a deal with both of them that that I'd agree to be chair as long as both of them remained with me to help me in everything that we were doing. I didn't even realize at that point when I said that how important that statement was. Preston has not only provided me with sage counsel and a balanced voice, but he was also so many times my eyes on Atlantic Avenue. I could swear that he had his own cameras on each block on Atlantic Avenue because if something was happening, Preston would know about it. There was never a time when I needed to be on the strip late at night observing what was going on that he was not there with me. We experienced the celebration of new businesses open on Atlantic. We spent many, many hours talking to every business down there. We survived rioting and even shootings. We marveled at the professionalism of the Virginia Beach Police Department, and we talked endlessly about how we could make things change for the better in the resort. I could always count on him to talk me off of a ledge, give me balanced advice, tell me I was nuts and to let it go, and to be there ready to roll whenever I called. Preston, I will miss you, my friend, and I will never walk Atlantic Avenue without thinking of you and wishing that you were there with me. RAC is going to have a presentation of a plaque to Preston's family with all of his RAC accolades on it. The mayor will be presenting a proclamation at City Council to Preston's family on the February 16th formal meeting. I invite you to please join in virtually for that. I think it would mean a lot to Kim and the family to know that we were there in the background. There's so many other things I could say, but we will all miss Preston, and RAC will miss Preston in his role. So thank you for letting me share my story. In addition to that, I know that we're all gonna miss him. Having said that, we are going to move on to approval of the minutes. You have received those in your package, and I will note that there were a couple of typos in there that have already been noted and that Robin has already fixed. So we don't need to go through that, but I'll entertain a motion for the minutes to be approved.
So moved.
Okay, Christina, in a second,
Second.
and Chuck. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. I am really, really, really happy to announce our speaker today. City Manager Dehaney is going to be joining us, and I know that he has just been flying since you landed in Virginia Beach, and I can't even imagine how you have dealt with everything that's gone on. But we're really excited that you're here with us, and can't wait to hear your comments today. So the floor is yours.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for here with you all virtually. Meet you all in person together in one collective space again without social distancing. But, you know, whenever that happens, we're no longer sure, you know, but I definitely think things are looking better and that there's a vaccine not on the horizon, but is here. Although that's the first item I'm going to talk about is really a COVID-19 vaccination update. And really all I can say about that is overall, I think everybody's frustrated with the pace of the vaccine rollout and in the rollout in general. You know, I think everybody wishes that there was more supply, a more readily available supply to inoculate and vaccinate our population, and that the rollout was just a little bit was more organized. You know, definitely there are some bright spots. Virginia Beach we've vaccinated the second most for our city. We've vaccinated the second most people in the Commonwealth, you know, so behind Fairfax County, Virginia Beach is second in terms of vaccination. So we've vaccinated so far 39,000 people between us and the local health systems and some of the congregate care facilities. I think around 29,000 of which has actually came through the Virginia Beach pod. Supply remains our biggest hurdle. I think currently right now we're slated to receive for the next couple of weeks about 5,000 doses. When we say 5,000 doses, those doses are to be not just going through our pod at the convention centers, those are also to be shared with the health systems, the pharmacies as well. You know, currently right now, the past couple of weeks, the paces that we've been doing, at least this week, we've been able to do about 2,500 to 3,000 vaccines a day at our convention center. Right now, we're repurposing city staff, so it's all hands on deck. You know, a lot of our library staff, our parks and recreation staff, some of our other internal services that are able to we're able to not, you know, be able to stop doing work as it relates to that. They're being focused at the pod. It typically takes us for an 8-hour shift to have about 100 volunteers and staff there as well. So hopefully if we ever get the ability to have 2 pods running at this or 2 shifts running in a day, it'll be about 200 city employees and staff that we can repurpose and dedicate to that effort. You know, but really it's priority number 1, you know, frustrating in terms of lack of supply, and then frustrated in that it's really decentralized in terms of like who's in charge, you know. So we don't have control of the supply, we don't have control over distribution, but we're the first line that our constituents go to ask questions, you know. And the hard part about that is that we don't know the answer to everything, and a lot of times we're asking BDH, who's incredibly busy and incredibly understaffed, to give us input on that as well, and they can't respond to those questions. So a lot of times we're answering things where we're just saying, we got to caveat this, we're not sure, because we may not know how it may end up once VDH makes their decision. Definitely, I think a lot of our constituents have reached out to us about the technology. You know, the technology has not been accessible, user-friendly, and definitely for a lot of our constituents that either have digital divide issues or just barriers in terms of accessing technology, it's been causing a lot of confusion, a lot of consternation. And then the state changed, and obviously they're trying to react to the information that they have at the time and making the best decisions that they can. But they rolled out 2 vaccine appointment systems in 3 weeks, right? The first week they had one system called VAMS, and VAMS was very user unfriendly. And then 2 weeks later, they released the Prep Mod system. And then for a period of time, the Prep Mod system had a loophole that allowed for certain people to forward along their invite to friends, family, colleagues, and they were able to bypass the 1B and the 1A criteria and get other folks in there that didn't meet the criteria, and we found out about that, from our citizens saying, how come this person who is relatively healthy, relatively young, was able to bypass somebody that was at X of an age, so the state has said that they got a fix in place, so that should be cleared up from now, but I think overall, everybody's doing the best that they can. Really wish that there was more supply and really wish that the rollout was a little bit more organized and planned for. We're doing the best that we can. I think when folks actually get to our distribution site, they don't talk about, other than the first 2 days when we roll it out, they don't talk about, they don't have a negative experience or negative comments about how efficiently our system is running, so we're doing the best that we can there as well. And really proud of our volunteers and our city staff that's been willing to step up and put aside their typical jobs to make this priority number one. So with the COVID update, I'll just stop to see if there's any questions as it relates to our COVID vaccination update before I move on to the next topic. Go ahead, Mr. Tower.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. I've gotten most of the same emails that the city manager's gotten, and hopefully we'll work the technology kinks. Certainly, most of the people who've actually gone to the convention center have experienced very good and seem to be really pleased with the way it's organized. I just want to ask a question I meant to ask you before. I have had people call me who want to volunteer, citizens who want to volunteer to help. They realize they can't perform medical tasks, and they realize there may be some restrictions on it, but they are ready, willing, and able to volunteer. Is there a place to call? What do we tell people who want to volunteer? You need to unmute. Need to unmute.
Yep. Mr. Tower, you can always send them to me, but there's also our Office of Volunteer Resources. So if you give them that contact information, we can get them in touch with them. But honestly, if you send it to me, I could forward it to them just as well to kind of get them going. And I'm really glad you mentioned that as well, because that's our big concern, is that we don't think it's sustainable at the rate that we're running our volunteers through this process, because the pods are long days, long nights. We need 100 people a day for an 8-hour shift, so we really need as many people as possible, especially after they get vaccinated, right? To volunteer to help us with this effort, especially once we start to get out into the rest of the community, because we do know that there's a need for satellite pods to get to some of our people who may have mobility issues. We're working with the health department to help them get that in place and come up with a vision and a strategy for that we'll probably be the legs to help operationalize. So we'll definitely need as many volunteers as possible when we get into those kind of satellite pods.
Okay. Robin, if you can get the link to where people could sign up under volunteer resources and send it out, I'll make sure that the Hotel Association and Restaurant Association get that as well, and we can send it out. That was one of my questions as well, Patrick, because I've had several people say to me, can we volunteer? How do we do that? So I think if we can get that word out there, that you're going to have a lot of people showing up with support for that. I had one other question, and it probably, I'm not sure that you can answer it, but in any of your conversations with the state, are they going to open up doctor's offices that are not affiliated with Centera and allow them to administer vaccines? Because my personal family doctor, he's ready to go, got the personnel, everything, but they're not allowing him any access. So it just seems like a really simple resource that's not being used.
I 100% agree. That's one of the things that I mentioned as well to them that will help with the health equity stuff, because if we want to get it out and get it out to folks. Most folks got a general doctor or a CVS or Walgreens where they go get a flu shot, or a Harris Teeters or a Kroger. If we can get it out to those areas, that will definitely help us with accessibility for our constituents. The big thing they say that's holding that back is supply. Really, it's the fact that Virginia Beach is only getting 5,000, a little bit more than 5,000 a week for not just the city, but for the entire system. It's really difficult for them to kind of say doctor's office, local doctor's office, so-and-so, you can get 50 or 100. So once those things happen, then they don't have a problem distributing it far and wide to everybody that possibly needs it. The other concern with the vaccine is that depending on which one you have, the refrigeration, yeah, and literally, the moment that it's refrigerated, the shelf life is a couple hours, and then it can lead to a lot of waste. And health directors want to ensure that they have oversight on ensuring that each facility that gets it can meet those requirements. With the major health systems, they don't have to check that, but we can't. But most of the doctor's office and most of the pharmacies, they may not have that capability. Or at least the health department hasn't reviewed it yet to check if they have. So that'll probably have to be some kind of inspection the health departments would do before they get down to that level.
Thank you. Billy?
Yes, a quick question about the Prep Mod loop. So there are many people that I know that signed up on Saturday afternoon and received their first shot at the convention center on Tuesday. With the time frame of getting the second dose by March 1, we would assume that those folks would be able to get their second dose within that time frame.
I hope so. I can't say for sure because that's not in the city's realm of responsibility. But from my understanding from talking to the health department is that once you get your initial shot, you should get notified from Prep Mod of when your next opportunity will be, and it should be within 21 to 28 days of when you got that first shot, if not earlier, for you to be able to schedule. I think how Prep Mod is worked now is that they give you a day and then you can go in and pick an appointment time, so you should get that. Obviously if you don't get that, if you reach out to us, we'll pass along the message to the health department, or you can reach out to the health department as well. I think I've found that if we reach out a little bit, sometimes we get a little bit better response, so definitely, if there's a concern there, I think our 311 folks have been inundated, and albeit they're willing and definitely stepping up to help, but they typically get around 300 to 400 calls a day. They're averaging about 4,000 to 5,000 calls a day with just handling our citizens' concerns in a system that they don't have eyes into, but really trying to liaise as much as possible to help get our citizens through this time.
Yeah, that was the reassurance I was looking for, because I'm over that age group. There were many people in the convention center who were under the age group that got a legitimate appointment and a legitimate first dose. Just want to make sure they're not disqualified for the second dose. So that's all. Thank you.
Any other questions on the vaccine rollout or update?
We have a question from Randy and then Shannon.
Thank you. I just wanted to see how are the allocations for Virginia Beach determined? That 5,000 based on our population versus the state's allocation based on 8.7 million seems disproportionately low for us.
I think you're talking the same thing Mr. Tower and I go over every day. I think Mr. Tower and I exchange emails back and forth every day like this makes no sense. They say it's based on population, a lot of it. Look, the state's getting around 100,000 a week, and it's about 9 million people in the state, and we're getting a little over 5,000. So maybe that makes sense. Maybe it doesn't. A lot of it, what we don't understand is what happens when it gets into the health systems, happens when it gets to, the Department of Defense said they have a different pot, Randy, Randy. I don't know. It's like looking at the curtain behind the Wizard of Oz, right? You know, it's like
Yeah. It puts us on a 92-week schedule, which seems crazy.
absolutely.
All right.
But
Thank
no,
you.
I hear the frustration and I get it.
Right. Shannon?
All right, yeah, so I'm going to send an email back. You guys can't see him off camera as Lieutenant Merce. He has the information, Mr. Dehaney, that we're looking for some volunteers. There are two websites. We work closely with the convention center and the vaccinations. If you are a EMS volunteer, there's one site for you to go to. If you are just an average citizen who wants to volunteer time, you can go to the Virginia Department of Health. So on the email for this meeting today, he's going to respond to everybody with that information.
All right, so BJ, is it okay to move on to the next item that you asked about?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. So the next question I got was, all right, so if the spring retreat will be scheduled for March or for February or March 2021, have the top 5 priorities to discuss at the retreat been defined yet? Hoping that Atlantic Avenue will be one of the top 5. The top 5 has not necessarily been defined yet. I've been meeting one-on-one with council and the consultant to identify the priority areas that they want to discuss. Council isn't really particular. We're not really focusing too much on specific projects at this particular moment. It's really the big themes that we identify as the big things that we should focus on at right now. I do know that, you know, the oceanfront is definitely a #1 priority for the city. I think, you know, everybody knows the top 3 economic drivers of Virginia Beach, and can't say one is greater than the other. And definitely tourism is up there as well. You know, I do know that there is the ramp plan that we're working on, and also that there is a CIP to renovate the Atlantic Avenue sidewalk. So I do know that Atlantic Avenue is a priority for the city and it will continue to be so, and those things are working in the CIP. You know, but we're not necessarily 100% certain on what the retreat topics are, but definitely that will probably, not the projects per se, but our oceanfront plan will be a conversation that we discuss as well. The other item you asked is, what is your view on tourism as an economic engine? It goes without saying, it's a third of our economy, you know, so basically it's a key pillar. It's definitely something that we focus on tremendously. I think council have been shown to make tremendous investments in and outside of the tip for this as our economic engine, and we continue to do so. You know, I think as we look at what are the things that we need to focus on in terms of getting out of COVID is really getting our industry ready for a post-COVID world. And a couple of things related to that is the CVB reboot, you know, and I think a lot of us are trying to figure out what the next steps are now that the Virginia Beach Tourism Authority was not approved or was withdrawn from the General Assembly as well. And I got it from the Hotel Association yesterday that I'm going to share with council on Friday, but also council had a discussion on Tuesday, basically outlining some of the things that we're going to start working on to come up with a plan that may not have been originally what the task force requested, but should be able to kind of help us achieve some of those goals that we wanted to do in terms of, you know, increasing our ability to recruit a talented workforce and trying to solve some of those performance issues and giving some nimbleness on the procurement standpoint as well, but also allowing for opportunities for engagement for our hotel community, our restaurants, and our industry stakeholders to be more a part of that, the sausage making at the DMO when they make their decisions as well. So that's what I'm focused on working on right now and trying to get that done as quickly as possible, because when we get as many people vaccinated as possible, I don't want us to be the item holding us back from our success as it relates to coming back at clicking on all cylinders after this as well. You know, so with that, I think I'll operate best if you ask me the specific questions about the tourism industry or what you think my views are as it relates to how we can help this industry or anything else related to that. So I'll just open that up for questions right now. Any questions?
We don't have any hands raised.
Okay. All right. So that's all I really had to talk about from those questions. So is there any other questions you all have to ask me? Yeah.
Patrick, could you give us a little bit of a background of what you did in Cincinnati as it related to the tourism industry and your experiences there?
Okay. So Cincinnati had and I didn't know it at the time, but I learned it because of the Bill Hamburger report. Cincinnati had a 501c6 DMO, you know, and it previously it was a part of the city of Cincinnati, but then several years ago, probably like in the 90s, it transitioned off from the city and became its own nonprofit. And the city held a seat on the board. Myself, the mayor, we held as city manager and the mayor, we held a position on the board where we voted on some of the decisions that the CVB did, also with the hiring of the CVB director. And before I left, I got the chance to be a part of that process. You know, we hired a CVB director about a year before I left Cincinnati as well. Also, we managed the convention center through Spectra. It was a for-profit convention center management arm. We managed the convention center through that, under that contract as well. And I also sat on the convention facilities board for the city, for the county as well, which was Hamilton County and the city of Cincinnati, where we used our transit-oriented tax, which is basically the hotel tax that you all have here, to cover the needs of our convention center. And also that was the funding source, in addition to some private dollars that paid for CVB salaries and also their costs as well. So basically sat on the boards and participated in decision-making as it relates to that, and then being the operator of the convention center.
I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware how extensive your background really was as far as tourism there. I know that you've had a bevy of things thrown at you there, but just looking at our industry since you've come to Virginia Beach, what do you see as priorities or our needs within our industry?
Definitely COVID, you know, and then trying to figure out what that means for all of us. Is it a sea change? You know, is it a sea change in how people want to travel? You know, I think we've done better than most in terms of maintaining a level of visitation that others will dream for. You know, I don't think for you all, obviously the revenue isn't the same as well, but I think we're doing better than most. But then try to figure out what that means for us, you know, in terms of what is people's mindset coming out of that. I don't know what that looks like. A lot of that is really going to have to be when we recruit that right leader of the future DMO, the stakeholders and them needs to look at that and figure out how we need to position ourselves as it relates to that. Definitely product development. We need to always continue that we're developing the right kind of product to spur tourism and get people to come here and to allow people to have a great stay. You know, obviously resort management office is key, you know, making sure that we get that back up as well. And I think what I've said to staff is that we can't be the ones that are in the way of success. You know, if this, you know, our success, we need to make sure that we got everything that we have clicking on all cylinders to ensure that it's not because of how the ocean front looks. It's not because of cleanliness. It's not because of perception of safety. Why, if we don't get success, it won't be because of that, you know? So obviously, you know, we all need to look at product development as from that ends as well. And then I think, honestly, one of the things we need to have as a conversation with the council is COVID-19, we know they're going to create some winners and losers. There's going to be some folks, we don't want this to happen, but there's some folks who are not going to make it, you know, but then how do we as a city and the stakeholders make sure that when property becomes vacant and available, that it's us a part of that conversation. It's us driving that to make sure that it doesn't get in the wrong hands, you know? So I think those are some of the things that we need to look at as a city, you know, and to ensure our success and making sure that the right kind of things are being built down there and stuff like that.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you said that, because a lot of times that gets lost in the conversation over this will present opportunities, especially for the city, you know, to become more involved in land banking or whatever you call it.
Yep.
at this point. So thank you for bringing that as a priority.
Mhm.
Did anyone else have any questions? Okay,
Yeah,
Kathy?
John Zirkle and then Billy.
Okay.
Go ahead, John.
Sorry, I was having trouble unmuting. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I had two questions. One, I liked hearing your experience with the Cincinnati CVB, and I was curious, has council asked you about that experience and the setup and the successes or challenges with it? And have they been receptive to hearing that if they did? And then
So I think between I had a lot of one-on-one conversations with council, and a lot of council members asked me about that experience and that setup. You know, I think the thing that's different than here is that this CVB there, and a lot of them, they're always funded primarily by the hotel tax, you know, but there's significant private investment from the Fortune 500 companies in that CVB as well. You know, so I don't know the whole history of what led to it leaving the city as well, but that was a big part of it as well. And it's a static number that the city and the county gives to. And when I say, I mean a concrete number that the city and the county gives to the CVB there, but there's a substantial private investment from the Chamber of Commerce and the Cincinnati Business Committee, and also some of the Fortune 500 leadership as well into that CVB that led to the collaborative effort there as well to kind of set that up. But I can't necessarily say if it's been tremendously successful, because I don't know where that CVB ranks in the world of CVB. But I mean, I think it was a great partnership. You know, it was a great way of gut checking certain projects with that board in terms of how to move forward and getting things done. You know, and then I think the thing that I've heard that you all are concerned about as well is that it really was a high performing organization in that it was pretty clear metrics, pretty clear performance metrics of what needed to get done in a particular time as well. And if it wasn't achieved, you know, it was always on the board, and the board was willing to make decisions to move in a different direction, you know. So I think it really brought the stakeholders and all the key players at the table to help make decisions on the right path to traverse for our tourism industry. You know.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, is there anything else, John, to that I missed or you want me to cover?
Yeah, no, that's good. I got one other question though, and it's not regarding the city as much as our governor. And are you guys? I assume you were engaging the governor to let him know we really would like some restrictions relaxed so we can start hosting meetings and conventions and more diners and more attractions as well. And it seems like we don't hear anything from the governor's office. So I don't know if you guys have better luck than Joe Citizen.
We're a chorus, right? I think we're all voices in that same chorus that's asking for that, you know. So I can't necessarily say the governor is more responsive to us as it relates to that than he is to you all as well. You know, we reach out to them frequently. Either through our lobbyists, through our legislative affairs liaison, or me sending the email to Mr. Clark, his chief of staff. You know, I think they're focused right now on the COVID vaccination, you know, priority, and then they say as they see where that's going, then they'll entertain moving some of the restrictions. But you know, that's all I can say as it relates to that. You know, but we are advocating on your behalf as well. But just understanding too that what the governor's priorities right now is making sure that we get the vaccines out while also curtailing the spread of COVID-19. But we understand what you're saying, and we are asking for, you know, some clarity on when these restrictions are going to be lifted.
I appreciate it. We're just hoping for a light at the end of the tunnel at some point.
Yes, sir. I agree.
Thanks. That's all the questions I had. I appreciate your time.
Billy?
Yeah, could you speak just for a minute about your past experience with Cincinnati and the redevelopment? Was there a redevelopment authority? Did you have an architectural review board? How did the city control or monitor or take redevelopment in a specific direction? You know, did you have a master plan for the city? I'm just curious your experience in the city of Cincinnati and how that happened, and because we're all struggling with that a little bit right now, especially down at the resort.
So Cincinnati, redevelopment was basically the priority in Cincinnati. It's an old city in American terms, definitely not like worldwide or in European terms. It's a city over 200 years old. So there wasn't a lot of expansion or growth in terms of building new properties or finding new properties. Most of the city's built out. So basically everything in Cincinnati was redeveloped. Cincinnati had several different redevelopment authorities. Primarily our downtown and our central business district and our tourism area was they had what they called a community development corporation that was funded by the city, by some of the Fortune 500 companies, and also the central business district came up with what I think you all call it, a SSD here. You know, they came up with an SSD that they used to fund the CDC, and the CDC was called the Center City Development Corporation. And that was the group that spearheaded most of the redevelopment outside of the different, like the major league sport team and the NFL stadiums. They spearheaded most of the development in the central business district and also the tourism area as well. The city sat on that board and also was a big funder as it relates to that as well, you know, and helped come up with different, and we met with that group to determine what kind of strategies they needed from the city in terms of legislation and policy to help facilitate growth that way. And most of the city's key business districts had a group like that was funded either with private dollars or a self-tax, you know, that was led by professionals that worked with the city to come up with the different plans for that particular area. The city focused on direct community development in those areas that did not have the capacity to support something like that. So it was more of our lower income communities where the city had a hands-on role in spurring development that way. But most of the development in our central business district and our key business districts were kind of led by those kind of community development corporations. And that's actually where I actually worked for one of those. You know, I was prior to that, I worked for a CDC, but I also was a community development financial professional, and I worked for a company called LISC, Local Initiative Support Corporation, and we lent a lot of money to redevelopment agencies for redeveloping different neighborhood projects, you know, hotels, also businesses and things like that as well. So pretty familiar with redevelopment. I actually got my master's degree in that as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Christina, did you still have a question?
Just more of a comment. Thank you, Patrick, for taking the time to talk to us. You're a breath of fresh air, that's for sure. I just wanted to emphasize John Zirkle's point about you all being our advocate in Virginia Beach about getting some restrictions eased. I'm a restaurant owner, and you know, especially the bar service situation, there's really no good reason for that, and you know, it's time. So I know that he's notoriously a little difficult and not really listening to people right now, but I really hope that you guys will, you know, continue to advocate for us because, like I said, it is time. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, we are. Rest assured, we are. Mm-hmm. We also try to be a little easy with it as well because, you know, I think we've expressed our concerns with the COVID rollout, the vaccination rollout enough that we want to make sure we keep our relationship well as well, because I think, you know, we all wish it was a little bit more organized as well, you know, and it's like we don't want to voice that too much as well because, you know, people are people, you know, but I understand where you are, and we are advocating to try to get our share for Virginia Beach. Mm-hmm. And get our easing of our some of the regulations that we feel like we can manage well amongst ourselves, and we feel like our restaurateurs are doing a great job. So it really should be specific based on things that are going on in different localities, you know, or different areas as well. But we understand.
Thank you.
Patrick, I'd just like to chime in and thank you from a restaurateur standpoint on the initiatives that you have put forward to help restaurants specifically. We have, it has just been a brutal year for all of us, and we don't see that light at the end of the tunnel. We're hoping for it, but we really appreciate the efforts that you've made on our behalf.
And Elizabeth, I could tell you this, BJ, that you all are blessed with a tremendous council, right? And I'm not saying that just because some of my bosses are here. Honestly, I think I've never been to a place where the council is wanting to take its funding and focus it on those kind of places. I mean, I'm used to a place where it's very insular and taking care of the city municipal corporation and taking care of the needs of the various employee unions, employee workforce. But this council took its CARES Act money and said, let's figure out a way to get it out into the community and help our community. And when staff was becoming a hurdle in terms of us having to follow, albeit appropriate and necessary government regulations and government laws, council put it on me and said, find a better way to deliver this. So I mean, I think you all have a very responsive council that's very responsive to your needs, and they are willing to be innovative on ideas. So it's easy to come up with ideas when you got that kind of direction, and they're kind of focused on making sure that we help our community, not necessarily the city, because we're in a decent place. Obviously we are seeing some revenue shortages as well, but they're saying primarily is to focus on our community and help our community get through this, not our small businesses and also our citizens as well. So honestly, I think kudos to our council, and I think hopefully they get the credit that they deserve for what they've done with the pandemic relief, which is second to none. I don't think any other city has done what this council has done. And a lot of it also is because of the stability that Virginia Beach has, and that stability really comes from the backs of our small business owners that's been able to drive that success and put us in this place where when the need is there, that the city is available to help. But you all have a very great and responsive council. I'm not just saying that because Councilmember Tower is on the phone, or is on the virtual call.
Well, it's really refreshing to hear you say that. And it also reminds me that we probably become very complacent about what we do have here, and that we do need to thank them for everything that they're doing for us. So thank you for giving me that reminder. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Guy. Okay, any other questions out there? If not, we'll move on.
Okay. I got one more.
Mike.
Mike?
Thank you. Mr. Manager, thank you for being on today. Real quick question. You mentioned the upcoming budget. Just your estimation of the shortfalls and the challenges that you have in the next budget year would be appreciated. Thank you.
I think the shortfall right now is something like I think it's around 12 million, but honestly, the city could figure out a way to close that loop, but the city is not in a horrible place. I think if we would say that the budget is $100, I think we're probably about $96, $97 from where we otherwise should be, right? So we've got about a 3% hit on some of the things, and really the things that we're missing is the icing on the cake kind of stuff, the emission taxes and things like that, because of those things aren't able to happen right now as well. We can figure out a way to navigate that as well. There's going to be some belt tightening. There's going to be some things that we're going to have to look at. I think we've had our city staff go through a 5% reduction exercise to identify the key priority things that we need to focus on and what we may be able to clean up around our edges. Some of those things that they're proposing, we definitely cannot accept, especially in our public safety ranks, in our human services ranks and things like that. But where we can tighten up, we're going to tighten up as well. Council's made it pretty clear when we had a budget guidance exercise in December 15th that they want us to ensure that we go through this process without any kind of significant tax increases. I think everybody's sensitive of the fact that our private sector, private sector workers are in unprecedented pain right now in terms of job loss, hours reductions, and salary losses as well. So we need to be cognizant of that when we prepare our budget as well. So that's kind of where we are. Definitely not 100% whole. Better than what we anticipated when we first walked into the pandemic. But trying to focus on a way to maintain services, enhance services in those key areas that we need to enhance services without asking our taxpayers to pay more.
Kathy, do I have any other questions or hands?
Nope.
Okay. Patrick, once again, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here and hope that you visit us more often.
Awesome, no problem. And hopefully pretty soon we'll be all in a room together, like 2 inches away from each other rather than 6 feet away.
Yes.
All right. So everybody have
Thank
a blessed day. Thank you for your time.
All right.
Thank you, Patrick.
Okay, next on the agenda, guys, is the chairman's report. I want to just mention a couple of things there. I had mentioned earlier that there is going to be a proclamation for Preston on February 16th, so just put that on your calendar. I also would like to congratulate Chuck Caton. He is now the TP, and thank you for undertaking this mission. We know that you guys have a tremendous amount going on right now, but thank you for being there. I also wanted to note that Laura had resigned from any RAC related committees at this point. She's focusing on the restaurant, and we are going to be getting some plaques. We're kind of behind in those and inviting those individuals back in to present them their plaques for their service with RAC. So I haven't forgotten it, just it's on the back burner right now. An update on the joint HRC Human Rights Commission and RAC subcommittee. We've had a couple of really good meetings here and have 2 projects that are going on right now that I'm looking for volunteers for. One of them, and it is a program called Courageous Conversations, and it was started within the school system as a way of talking about the racial issues that we're experiencing right now. And one of the facilitators for that is a member of the Human Rights Commission, is going to be helping lead these groups. And we are starting with RAC, and we'd like some small groups, 5 or 6 individuals in each group. But I'll be sending out dates with that, and I am hoping to see each and every commission member participate in these. I have gone through part of this, and it is it's very enlightening. It's probably going to be different than anything that you've ever done before, but I think that you will you'll appreciate the conversations after the fact there. So I'll let you know on that. We also had talked about establishing a business toolkit for businesses to have to make sure that they are being diverse within their businesses. And it's kind of the how-tos and statements. And I have a couple of volunteers that are going to work on this. Richard Maddox, former council member, is going to help draft something. Bobby Malati has volunteered to help him as well. But we would like to, we're going to present it to the Joint Commission and work on it through there. And then we'll be bringing back to RAC for your approval. And hopefully we'll be able to get it out to the individual businesses. So the ones that we have seen that we have as prototypes right now are for much bigger companies than what we have. So we're trying to make this a little user friendly for people that may not have a human resource director. So that is going on. Let's see here. I think that pretty much sums up the chairman's report. and we can move into the committee reports at this point. Chuck, if you, and I don't know whether you are giving Ramp or Kathy or a combination.
I'm going to cover them both.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
It's all
So
yours.
Sure. So there was no formal meeting on January 28th of the Transportation, Parking, and Pedestrian Committee to allow more time to cover the agenda items for the Ramp Steering Committee meeting that was scheduled for the same time. The Resort Area Mobility Plan Project team has been very busy since the last meeting on December 17th and presented the interim results from the public survey that was launched in early January. They made recommendations for the resort area's active transportation network, which addresses connectivity, convenience, and safety objectives for pedestrians and bicycles and scooters. They also recommended transit network modifications and improvements, which included a relocated transfer center. They recommended a modification to the existing Atlantic Avenue alignment that includes active transportation lanes and enhanced sidewalks. And they proposed 3 2021 pilot projects for this summer, which will involve the Route 30 trolley modifications, curbside zone demonstration with parklets and outdoor dining area for a 3 to 4 block demonstration area, as well as a parking project, which is to be determined. The committee endorsed the project team's recommended Atlantic Avenue alignment modifications and the 2021 pilot programs, which will enable the project team to work with city staff and HRT to implement the proposed pilot projects this summer and maintain their schedule for development of the plan. At their next meeting on February 25th, the project team will present a summary of the public survey results. They'll present an existing condition summary, as well as a summary of engagement, which summarizes all the meetings and input that they've gotten from the surveys and the various focus group and civic league meetings that they've held. And then they'll provide the committee with some draft recommendations regarding multimodal network, the Atlantic Avenue concept, and programs and policies. I would certainly encourage each of you to review the SGA's website and click on the link for the resort area mobility plan to see the background information on the plan and the progress to date. So that's it. Thank you.
Any questions for Chuck on this? Okay, I would like to emphasize, if you haven't had a chance to go on the SGA site with Ramp, please go on and look at some of the materials on there. There's some really interesting proposals that are bubbling up at this point, and I think that each of the commissioners should be aware of what those are and in what directions we may be heading there. So
yeah, and certainly if anybody has any questions, they can reach out certainly to Kathy or I, and we'll certainly get an answer.
Yeah, it's a lot of information to sift through, but they've done a great job of summarizing it. So thank you. OEC, Mr. Thompson, you're up.
Thank you, BJ. OEC met last Thursday, the 28th. We had a review or a presentation from Jamie Capps on the planned entertainment, some of the changes planned for this coming summer. These were substantial increases in the budget and the programming. And it appears there will be a big impact on the quality of entertainment, particularly the musical entertainment with more well-known and recognized bands. The budget allows for greater volume and frequency of the entertainment. And then of course, as a follow to that, the Entertainment Task Force met yesterday and were presented with what this current plan is, as well as a contingency plan based on COVID restrictions and what they look like next summer. During that meeting, there were a few changes were recommended, which we believe will be implemented with a final plan forthcoming in just a few weeks. We were then, Brian Solis presented us with an overview of the block by block program coming to the resort. Shared with us the responsibilities of the ambassadors that will be part of this program. which spanned a broad range of responsibilities, from cleaning to answering questions of our visitors to engaging the homeless. Shared with us some ideas of their dress and their attire and their ability to be identified by the visitors. And it really sounds like a comprehensive program that's will be a real difference maker, I think, for the resort. And we're hoping they will be able to come to the full RAC and make a presentation soon. That's it.
Thank you. And next up, we have Rick, which we did have our meeting yesterday, and we spent a pretty significant amount of time talking about the speakers that are going to be available for RAC in the upcoming months. And these are tentative at this point. They do need to be looked at to make sure that the dates are with that. We have tentative on March 3rd, Nancy Hellman coming in and maybe giving us some insight on what's going on with the sports programs right now. We know that we've had a lot of cancellations, but we also know that there are some events that are going on there, so maybe we can get an update on that. And also, one of the conversations that we had as part of our OSGAC meeting, just an aside, was potentially looking at a niche market for families with children with special needs. We have an abundance campground and the playground and the wheelchairs and everything that maybe there's an opportunity that we can look at there. So we also have put a request in to Blair McBride, which is the CEO of Block by Block. I would love for you guys to see the presentation there. It's really an impressive company. April tentatively, and this might move to May, is a dome site update from Mike Culpepper. And then going into May, we may have, if we don't have the sports update in March, we'll have it in May, or actually we may have it in both. So those are the speakers that we have kind of tentatively lined up. I would welcome any suggestions from you guys on topics or speakers that you would like to see come in that you think would be relevant and useful for this group. You know, we have a lot of opportunities, and if there's someone out there that you want to have come in, please let us know. So that gets for Rick and the OSGAC, Miss Christina.
Yes, ma'am. So OSGAC met yesterday before our RIC meeting, and not to trumpet or anything, but we had Mike Culpepper with Venture, not necessarily as an update like you guys will be getting for the dome site project, but more as a big investor in the area and a successful investor in the area. We really wanted to pick his brain on our progress with redevelopment opportunities, development opportunities, land banking. How do we get our resort strip to where we want it to be again, aesthetically, operationally, all those good things. So, and, you know, Venture is an extremely reputable, I mean, they're really someone to look to, and he did come with some great ideas. So the main premise of what his ideas were, there were three things. One, he spoke a lot about zoning and permitting, and there has been talk swirling for quite some time about some design guidelines, perhaps, something like that at the oceanfront. So it was nice to hear him confirm that that was one of the things they were thinking as well, because I know we've all been discussing that also. So that was one of the big things. Another was marketing, and BJ touched on this earlier, but he did share a personal experience and said that he had friends that had children with special needs from different states that he went to college with, that both contacted him and told him, we're going to Virginia Beach. There's so much to do there for children with special needs, Grommet Island Park, you know, all those sorts of things. So, but I don't think we probably do the best job in marketing that. I mean, that's a really special, specific thing to Virginia Beach that we really need to be pretty damn proud of. And why not market it? So that was, and just marketing that conversation in general, doing a better job of that in Virginia Beach. And then his third initiative or idea was more public investment, grants and things like that. We've got a great start on that. I know we have a grant program coming out very soon, if it's not active already, a grant matching facade program. So that I think will continue to be a big incentive for landowners or the business owners to really improve, update, and pay attention to their properties. So that's pretty much it for that. Thank you.
The Green Committee did not meet this month, but I will update you later on what's going on with that. I did want to mention the Bylaws Committee is going to have its final meeting the end of the month for the review coming from the City Attorney's Office. At that point in time, we will be bringing that forward for discussion and then going through appropriate city channels for that. So, okay, staff report.
Did we miss PDRC?
Yeah.
Oh, geez, Billy, I'm so sorry. Billy,
Not
you're
the
up.
first time I've been left off the kickball team. So PDRC met Tuesday morning. We reviewed the canopy replacement project for the Oceans 14 Cafe, which is a huge enhancement to that property. Dan Sampson, who has done the renovation of Mahi Ma's, presented that, and it's really a handsome project. And then we went into a brief discussion about the design assistance program, and we have many architects and others who have stepped up to volunteer to help with that program. And we actually have a home, and I think that segues right into what Brian's going to talk about. But we've got a couple places in the resort management office that we might be able to meet as a group. And so we've got lots of volunteers, a program in place, and I have a feeling a lot of people who are very interested in this. This is going to be like getting the COVID vaccine. I can see it coming. So anyhow, that was our meeting. And so with that, I think we're going to roll into Brian, give us an update on that facility that hopefully we'll be able to use. Thank you.
Brian, Kathy.
Sure. Up on the agenda, and good evening, everybody. Here to give you all the very latest on the major program elements to implement the council's September resolution on their resort management initiative, really. So Randy spoke on the substantial enhancements to the entertainment program that IMG, doing business as Beach Events, produces throughout the year, primarily focused on the resort area. I really applaud not only the OEC, but the task force, and really their involvement in helping us to quality control, if you will, where the program ended up, which I think has really ended up in a great place. The vast majority of enhancements are everywhere from Atlantic Avenue to various events throughout the oceanfront, from the boardwalk east and on the beach. But this year we also have added some support to incentivize larger scale meetings and conventions and athletic events at the sports center. Not necessarily larger scale, it could be in terms of quality or duration of the event, but to provide entertainment services for them as well. But the majority is a difference-making program that we'd like to come to you when you see fit to brief you on. And I think there's been some conversations through Kathy and Nancy and Jamie on that. So whenever you see fit for that, we're happy to partner with IMG to walk everybody through that. It's for 2021, but it's really the foundation for the program moving forward. But we'll go over some adjustments we may have to make for 2021 based on COVID protocol and how we kind of shuffle in and out of that depending on what the restrictions or new guidelines may be. We certainly went through 5 or 6 changes, waves of them last year that we had to flex on. So the ambassador program that was touched on earlier, we basically finalizing that contract, and it should be in Block by Block's hands tomorrow, if not by the first half of the week, for them to go ahead and sign. Thank you, BJ, and through Kathy, reaching out to have them come to your March meeting. They have confirmed both Blair, the president, and hopefully Scott Crandall, who is the regional vice president for the Atlantic region. He's based out of Miramar, Florida, but his territory stretches from Miami to Baltimore and many spots in between, and he'll be standing up the Virginia Beach program. Scott was in town, whatever that Monday and Tuesday of Martin Luther King Day, and showed him around. Appreciate Diana Burke briefly meeting with him because we were trying to develop that relationship with the whatever hotel properties are amenable to the ambassadors taking breaks at their facilities or using the restrooms, occasionally, particularly during severe or inclement weather. And she was gracious enough to help facilitate that again, like we did with the temporary beach ambassador program last summer. So that was a good visit. The physical aspects of the space, again, it will be at 401 Virginia Beach Boulevard, will be the field office. We intend to retain the space here at 2101 Parks Avenue as well for the special event planning and permitting piece because it has some conference space and there are some other benefits to that. But the bulk of the work will go out of the field office, which is the former Albino's Cleaners and a service station before that, southwest corner of 17th and Arctic, really. That space is significantly being renovated now. Block by block will be kind of shoehorned in there with us. It's an intimate space, but there is a small cooperative space where we can keep a calendar for the design review activities related to the citywide incentive program. Also, just kind of flexed and ordered some additional tables and fold-up chairs to be able to space out in the garage as well, and maybe move the vehicles out. Should we have a larger group to host in there? It's actually a nice studio type of garage, but it'll be packed in there. But also in that space will be code enforcement inspector, zoning inspector. I'll be in there until we hire and onboard a permanent resort administrator. I'll be hiring first an administrative type of person, an office type of manager, someone to do the financial transactions and that type of thing first. Likely by next week, we'll be rolling that out. And then the 2 homeless outreach specialists will also be in that space. We are starting to heavily coordinate together. They still report up through their department because they have citywide, responsibilities, but the folks that will be working the resort area, we're starting to meet on a regular basis. We're pulling together a 15 to 20-minute roadshow because we want to have kind of a education roundtable first with the numerous civic and business organizations that are in the resort area. Our first meeting, and appreciate George inviting us and having us, is March 15th with the Atlantic Avenue Association. We do intend for that to be virtual, and I would encourage that in this case so that we can get as much participation as possible to listen to that briefing and for us to get feedback. Really conscious of how we prioritize and our approach to working with primarily, businesses in the resort area. We need to have a very friendly wave and kind of know when to be firm and also know when to be flexible for innovation. To Christina's point on Mike Culpepper's talk, his talk the other day at OSGAC, we do want to be innovative in our approach to architecture, landscape. So it's a kind of a balance we'll need to strike for those that, may not have as well of intentions or resources to be able to, that may want to or need to seek variances or what have you. So it'll just be a fine line, and we're trying to find what that might be. I'm gonna pause for some questions for a second, but I would also like to offer BJ and any of the committee chairs under BJ and through Kathy we're happy to come to whatever committees and obviously the full RAC to do this education piece. And so whenever you can plug us in, we'll make sure that we have, have that presentation ready and able to listen.
Brian, do you think that will be ready that you could present to Rick in March?
Yeah, I just need to look at my calendar, see when that is, and coordinate with the right folks from those departments. But yes, we'll definitely pencil that in and firm it up through Kathy and Robin.
Okay, I think that we could start with that, and then we could work through the other subcommittees, and then hopefully, if all goes well there, then we could have it at the full RAC in April.
Okay. We will head in that direction, and I'll also be reaching out to Diana and Deb and VBHA,
Right.
and then BJ, you or Stacy or VBRA, and kind of go that way. If the Resort Civic League or any of the civic organizations would like for us to meet with them, happy to do that as well. Some of them are meeting, some of them aren't on the civic side, but we'll reach out on that.
Okay.
In terms of the space, it's coming along well. Kudos to our friends in Public Works, really been doing a great job on the renovation of that space. We intend to be in there around the first week of March as a soft opening, if you will, and kind of available to, formally April 1st, working out of that space. We'll have some smaller, nimbler vehicles to be out and about in the resort area with all-weather gators, both from the code enforcement zoning side and homelessness outreach. And to kind of monitor and work with our ambassadors. So I do believe you'll see a significant presence. Honestly, it likely is going to be about around the third week of March. When you'll really start to see the ambassadors out there. I know there's a desire for them to be nimble and ready for the first warm day or weekend in March. We never know when that's going to be, or a snowstorm. I mean, you just never know when it's going to be. But that is our approach, to be ready as soon as possible. But they're trying to stand up this year-round organization and the proper foundation for it in less than 45 days. Even they're working on it even before the contract signed. Let's see if I'm missing anything else. I think that's all I wanted to touch on. I'm happy to stand by for any questions you might have.
Brian, could you, and maybe Shannon can jump in on this, talk about the new squad that is going to be working out of the 2nd precinct that will will work with the resort manager's office, the businesses, or Shannon, is this too preliminary to even mention this? You're muted.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yep.
I don't know why this is so complicated for me, but it is. So the chief is giving me a new supervisor down here at the oceanfront. And that supervisor will be a resort liaison supervisor. And that person will have, that sergeant will report directly to me and have 2 officers that are assigned to him or her. And their responsibility will be to be the conduit for community engagement and community events in the police department. So obviously, all of you in the business community can please feel free to continue to call me, but that person will be boots on the ground for you to talk to, for you to call directly with their 2 people. When they get here, their first line of business is to do what is called a CPTED evaluation. It's crime prevention through environmental design. So when we were talking the other day about different improvements for the oceanfront, we have to keep that in mind, because although bushes and other things may look nice around properties, they also create places for homeless and criminal element to hide and commit crime. So they'll be completing that. And I just got the names for the supervisors. We'll be holding the board. So I think by March 1, I'll know who that is. So I'm excited about that. And then I will also be getting a special events sergeant to work with Lieutenant Merce, who you keep us seated switched with. He's in the room. That will be helpful for planning out our special events, and we can work with you guys to get all that done. So a lot of new changes coming for the ocean. I'm excited about it, and I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. It looks like the chief might be giving me the extra personnel I've asked for this year, so we can be highly visible. So I'm excited about a lot of changes, and I'm staying through 2021.
Yay!
Thank you.
Randy, I think you have your hand up.
Yes, this is for Shannon or maybe Brian. I guess we can assume that there'll be a regular communication sharing of information between the block by block folks and the 2nd precinct.
Yes. So we'll be working with, once Brian gets that off the ground and introduces me to some people, we will get the block by block and the resort liaison together and the resort management office, and all work as one cohesive group to move everything forward at the oceanfront. So that's a win-win for all of us.
Yes, definitely a lot more eyes and feet on the street. Even though security isn't their role, it's still nice to have them down there.
Oh, I do not want a repeat of last summer.
Right.
A little tired last year. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay. Thank you.
Did we have any other questions before I give a quick update? Okay, so just wanted to remind everyone, I know we talked about this for a couple of minutes at the beginning of the meeting, but economic development will be launching the citywide district improvement program. This is that matching grant program, max of $10,000 matching grant for mainly facade improvements. They'll be launching that very soon, hoping in the next few days. And I will send the link out to all of you as soon as it goes live. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that. And that's all.
Okay. Councilman Tower, did you have anything you wanted to add to the group?
No, thank you for letting me be with you. I hope everybody that is of qualified gets their vaccine soon, and that the supply increases. Unfortunately, we don't have much control over it, but we're doing everything we can to make sure we get our fair share anyway.
Okay. I just wanted to make one more comment, guys, and that is I am so pleased with all of the progress that we're making on all of these initiatives. If you look 12 months back, not only have we faced down COVID, but we have had a really powerful initiative moving forward with the assistance of council and city staff, and I'm sure that they have probably wanted to wring our necks a few times, but these are all things that are really, really positive for our resort, and it's because of a lot of hard group of individuals on this call. So I just wanted to say thank you guys for everything that you've done, and I'm really excited about all of the positive changes that that we're going to see coming down here. When we do get relief from COVID, we're going to be ready. So thank you very much there. Just to close the meeting, any old business from anyone? Okay. Any new business? Okay. Well, thank you guys. Have a wonderful weekend and talk to you soon.